Welcome back to another DC breakdown of Campaign 3 of Critical Role. We're doing episode 12 this time, so spoilers before episode 12, but you don't need to watch the episode before you do these things. I'm trying to take little nuggets from different live plays of Dungeons & Dragons. Comment down below if you want me to do other series. I'm compiling a spreadsheet to do a bunch of different ones. I'm firing this series back up. We're doing these once a week. And in this week's episode 12, we got everything from a shopping extravaganza up to a Halfling reroll Nat 1 situation, which, and if you know my stance on that, we're going to get into it. But first, the sponsor for this week's video is Luke Hart from the DM Layers Kickstarter, Layers and Legends. But technically, it's not a sponsor because he doesn't even know I'm doing this. He didn't pay me anything for it. And we're just YouTube D&D buddies. And I wanted to give a little shout out to his Kickstarter and what he's doing here. It's got a bunch of stuff for you to check out. There's only a couple more days left to unlock a bunch of Kickstarter stretch goals on this thing. And there are 2 different books that he's offering. In the first book, Layers and Legends, he has 25 drag and drop adventures you can plug into any campaign with over 100 monsters. And then in the second book of Loot and Lore, there are a ton of magic items, puzzles, traps, encounters, adventure ideas, villains, NPCs, spells, factions, subclasses. Time out. Is it even legal to put this much stuff in one book? I don't even understand what he's doing. That's probably why he has to do 2 books. This is crazy. But for real, he is a friend of the channel, so if you want to go check it out, show him some love, links down in the description. Now let's break down this first clip. Starting off here is shopping. Shopping episode. And if you watch Critical Role at all, you know that Travis Willingham hates shopping episodes, and some players out there hate shopping episodes. Some entire groups probably do. There's lots of different ways to run them, but in a group of 8 players, sometimes you're gonna have to shop and spend gold, especially when some of the players love shopping and they've had entire episodes full of shopping. So how do you handle it? How does Travis handle it? What does Matt do? Here's the clip of a shopping section.
Do peony silk sheen to it?
I don't know what that means.
A textured shine.
Textured shine.
He's over it.
I'm here for it. How much?
That's really lovely. That's going to be lovely.
This is a very simple ensemble. This would run you 12 gold.
Done! Sold.
Very well.
I head outside.
That's the most Travis thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Over it.
Scene for me.
So that's it. He's done. He's over. He's checked the boxes. He's done. You can also go a step further. And Matt went ahead and had a roleplay scene with it. And a lot of times, Travis roleplaying in general and his character is always going to be a good time. But sometimes you do want to have roleplay scenes, bring them in on it, have them roleplay a little section, especially if everybody else has. Keep the vibe and immersion of the table going, you know what I'm saying? But sometimes you just want to hand wave the whole thing for certain characters, especially if a character goes off on their own. This shopping episode it's too long to get into, but if you have the character go off on their own and you know that that player does not like shopping, you can hand wave a bunch of stuff. Now, I in general, I do this, but I've had a player before that I knew didn't like shopping. Usually I'm like, what do you want? And they can do a thing. And I've even had it to where there's no role play whatsoever, and I just straight up ask them, what things are you wanting? They have this much, it'll cost this much. Do you want to make a persuasion check of some kind? They do or don't or whatever, and then it's done, right? So they win, everyone wins at the table, everybody else can focus in, and I can turn on the role play back for the other characters or whatever. But there's been times where characters have gone to do some simple shopping, and I bring them into some role play for it, and then they're kind of like, wait a second, is this and it keeps them on their toes of if I just want to hand wave scenes or which scenes do I role play? Is this an important scene because he's role playing it? In my head as a dungeon master, I'll ask myself if this NPC has some important dialogue that they need to say in some way, or if they're a bigger NPC than the players might realize, and it sets the tone for who they are, and maybe they're the fun, goofy NPC that I want to interact with this player with. And I'm also more likely to role play out scenes and have some more social action and spend some more time during social interaction if it's been a while since they've had it in the past, and I know it's going to be a while if they haven't had it in the future. So get a pulse check for your campaign. You as a dungeon master should know kind of what happened before, what's about to happen, and know how much time to spend on these things, and your players' preferences on shopping in general. For this next clip, there's times as a dungeon master where you ask 2 players to make a check, or 2 people of the group can make a check, or something like that. And a lot of times there's some meta level things where the characters might like, who has the highest plus modifier for this investigation check or perception or history or whatever, and you want to bring them in and involve. So this can sit some different ways with different dungeon masters. Are you like, is this okay? And then sometimes it can turn off players because they just don't have, like, their character would be investigating because this is an important moment for them, maybe in their backstory or something, but they have a really low +2 investigation. So then it feels really meta, weird, cringy reasons maybe that the player doesn't and then other people do or something like that. So this is an interesting moment for this, and we'll talk about it afterwards. But Liam and Laura right here are going to have an investigation check.
Both of you make investigation checks, or one of you with advantage. Your choice.
Take advantage.
Okay.
So I hold up boxes and drawers for her, show her things.
Right, but let her guide the actual investigation.
Nice. So let's see what the roll is.
Oh, Jesus. 15.
15.
Okay, so simple thing, very, very simple thing there, but props to Liam for being both a min-maxer in that little moment right there of, let's see who's going to be, you know, power gamer, whatever type of words you want to use for it. Liam's very good at maximizing things to do what he wants and building character, all this kind of stuff. So he sees this moment, and then he takes it one step farther. Instead of just leaving it as like, okay, you have the higher plus, you go. Instead of just leaving it like that, he describes and takes the extra little moment. And these moments, players, dungeon masters, these little moments are huge to be able to be like, I am helping her. So he again, Matt gave them the choice of either both of you can roll or one with advantage, which that's a pretty standard thing. I've done that before, but in general, I do lean towards to both people making the checks. I like that better with both people rolling in general. But he does a very quick little description of role play about him handing the box and him saying how he's doing things to help her and give her the reins. And it's a cool little moment to paint the picture in the head and to acknowledge in the real world. I just call Dungeons and Dragons the real world. In the game world, that is what Liam is doing, his character, to help her. But in the real the actual real world, he's looking at the character sheets and knows she has a better score, but he actually connected it to the actual game. So I think it's a really subtle thing, and I love pointing these type of things out here in these DC breakdowns. So love it. Oh, this next clip right here, I don't even know what's going on, but I absolutely love it. So I have to show you guys, if you do know what the heck's going on, because again, this is episode 12, and right now, at the time of filming this, they're on episode, I think, 19 or 20 right now. I'm a little behind, because I took a hiatus on these things, but firing them back up for y'all. I don't know what this is going on here, but I love doing this at my tables. I do it all the time at my tables. I love the vibe that it causes and the mystery and intrigue. So let's see what the heck's going on with Sam's character.
Sam.
No.
You take 2 points.
2 points.
You didn't do anything.
Oh, no.
And there's another thing. You can see, even look at Laura's face right there. She's like, oh, what? Is it connected to what she did? Is it what's happening here? I don't know. I love giving, I think I'm pretty sure every single one of my players starts the game off, usually in some way, with some sort of secret or some sort of mechanic or some sort of thing. Whether they know it or don't know what's going on with it, they have something going on they have to figure out. I love it when the player also doesn't know what's happening and they have to kind of figure that out themselves. I like adding layers of mystery and intrigue to things and seeing when it comes out and reveals, whether it's part of the character, part of how the character works, part of the character's backstory, part of the world, or a combination of all of that. So I don't know what's going on. Comment down below. So careful with, I guess, spoilers for other people that don't know yet. But I want to know. It's a mystery, and I want to know. Now, this next one is a caution for you dungeon masters out there to be careful what you ask for when it comes to roles. And there's sometimes where players want to do something, however meaningless or meaningful it is, if it's in combat or not in combat. In this case, it's not in combat. Laura wants to do something. She wants to craft some things, and I have it here in the clip of her just describing some simple things she wants to craft. It's not a high stakes thing whatsoever. Matt asked for a check, and the roll's real bad, and this is kind of those times of Dungeon Masters where you regret asking for a check. And I think based on how Matt's face, body language, and what his end ruling is as a Dungeon Master, he regrets asking for the roll too. Let's just play it.
And if I can find some beads, I would love to create a little extra piece that comes around the head and comes down over the hair as well.
Okay.
You got beads.
Go ahead and roll a dexterity check for me. If you don't mind.
Guidance.
Burn this mask.
Come on!
I see it from here.
It's rough.
That's
a cocked pyramid.
Fuck this.
Can we, since we have a big team, can we give her some assist?
She is great.
Fuck crap
After a
day.
few.
Fuck crap day. 8.
You're fine.
Look, these are simple crafts. There's no threat to any of these.
Thank you, Matt.
Genuinely, all I want to know is if anyone rolls a natural 1, it's going to look real janky. That's primarily why I'm having anybody roll. If they have a semi-complicated idea, I just want to see if they royally fuck it up, and then we get to experience that. But you're fine.
All right.
Simple enough, simple enough. So I don't know what her role was. She also had some other things going into that. 8's pretty low. Okay. And ultimately, there is a time as Dungeon Masters where you do, and he clarifies it at the end. So I think overall now, I don't think he regrets it. I'm going to go back on that because there's times in my table where I just purely want to see, don't roll in that 1, or give me a check, but I'm looking to see if you roll anything but in that 1. And I will literally say that. And so for myself as a Dungeon Master, if these moments happen, I clarify that beforehand because I personally, like, but the way I run my table, I don't like those moments where I like ask for a check and then I have to be like, you know what I mean? Because usually in general, 10 is kind of usually the minimum DC I'd ever ask for. I don't really do DC 5s, right? Very, very rarely would I ever, if I can even think of that. But there are definitely times when I've asked for checks for not in that 1, or I've even, if I do have a DC 5 or something, I'm like, just give me over a 5. And I try and say that beforehand, just so the tone is set for the seriousness of these rolls, because going back on it afterwards and be like, oh, you know, it's fine. Because going back on it can kind of feel a little bad sometimes. So I think it was a great moment of, this is not a high stakes thing. There's nothing in threat. And Matt does a great job of clarifying nothing's a threat here. This is totally fine. And then they move on forward from that. And he even clarifies all future rolls of like, all right, anybody just don't get a natural 1 and we'll just be able to enjoy that moment. So cool. And the next clip brings us to that moment of natural 1s and the freaking halfling reroll luck. And this is kind of a great example of why I hate the lucky feat and hate halfling luck and just the luck mechanic in general. I'm sure there's gonna be people in the comments that disagree, etc. I've done a whole thing on luck. I could do a whole nother rant video on luck and why, but we'll get into it after I show you the clip. But that moment that Matt asked a second ago in the last clip about like, I just want to see if anyone hits a natural 1 so we can live that moment. Because it's fun. Nat 1s are fun. That's a cool thing to have someone hit a nat 1 in a cool crafting thing and then have something be weird and then that's just fun, right? It's just fun to me. Anyway, and here's what happens with Liam's check.
I mean, I want it to look pretty.
He's carving
but
something.
I'm not an artist, an artisan. My art is the sword, not the carving.
We'll see about that. Roll a dexterity check.
But I'm proficient in it.
You are.
Oh, a 1. I'm gonna re-roll it.
Because you can do that as a halfling. Damn it! That was my 1 chance.
That is a 23.
23. It is, even with the short time, an impressive display of attention to detail and form.
Ooh, stay with me here. Listen to this.
While not on par with a master craftsman such as yourself, there is a hidden thread of talent in this little halfling here.
Okay, so, oh man, see, for myself, you know, halfling luck, I don't know. I think I personally, right, my opinion is I think it would have been a cooler moment. Let's replay this scenario and have Liam not be a halfling, right? Let's just say he's a human or whatever race he is, right? And he doesn't have the halfling reroll. I think it would be a more fun moment at the table for that natural 1 to land and stay and stick. He makes this thing for Chetney. Think about Travis, how funny Travis is as he's making a gift for Travis in this woodworking. Travis's character is a woodworker in his backstory, and Liam's trying to make something for this woodworking character, doing his own woodworking outside of his realm of expertise, but he at least is competent with it, and he gets a natural 1. That is a cool moment. I think that's going to be a more funny moment. That's probably I would say a more natural and true moment at the table for the natural 1 to land and it to stick, because natural 1s mean something, and then there'd be some sort of funny story moment from there, and then Chetney would be like, and then maybe they could, you know, he could teach him how to do that. Some other things could unfold from it instead of a, oh wow, look at this potential master craftsman wood thing, you know, because he re-rolled it and then he has 23 now instead of a natural 1, right? Oh, that's just my opinion on it, right? So let me know what you think about that. And in general, for how I handle the lucky feat, if you're not familiar with it, is I treat the lucky feat as an advantage on a roll, and you can choose to grant yourself advantage on a roll. Cool. And that's how it's flavored. And even in general, I would also say from the Dungeon Master side of Halfling Luck or luck in general, is if you're going to get a natural 1 and you redo it and all that kind of stuff, I feel like the flavor of the description should fall into the Halfling Luck situation. Like, maybe this is how I might describe it. And I know that, you know, Matt's great descriptions. I'm not trying to criticize that at all. I'm saying with Halfling Luck, because this happened before in a DC breakdown where Liam had a natural 1 and then re-rolled it and did really good. I think that there should be this like lucky moment playing into the description. I think that'd be a fun thing for me if I really had to play it run it as a Dungeon Master and have somebody really wanted it as is. But I would probably say something like, you fall and it breaks. Like, you drop it and you accidentally cut it in half and it breaks, and you're like, oh, and you put it back together. But it's this really, actually, whenever you put it back together, you put it back around a different way and you have this new different way to, it's cool. It's like abstract art. I don't remember exactly what he was carving, but it could be some interesting interpretation of it that is actually beautiful, instead of like, look at this actual thing, it went perfectly. No, Halfling Luck, I see that as things going not well and then well, and that being part of the whole Halfling spirit. I don't know myself, I just love natural 1s and natural 20s. And I feel like those moments are big, cool moments where the dice are telling a story, and the dice play such a huge role in this game to have a mechanic that just like, skirt, no, actually, I'm really good at this. I think that could be represented by advantage being given beforehand. So once the dice leave that character's hands, they hit, they land, and it stays. I think that feels better. And if I am going to describe it on the Dungeon Master side of things, I do like the creative challenge of coming up with how would a Halfling Luck or a luck thing be explained for this scenario that just happened. But as always with these breakdowns, I want to hear from you guys and what you think down in the comments. What other videos you want me to do breakdown? I'm going to keep doing these Critical Role ones, but as I compile my list, I want to do more. And if you do like this series or the other videos I do here on this channel and want to support what I do here, you can check out my Patreon down in the description. I publish monthly Dungeons & Dragons PDFs over on my Patreon for the highest quality and bang for your buck that you can get. So a big thank you to all my patrons, and I'm starting something new here. I'm gonna do a random name draw of a patron for an MVP, most valuable patron, huh? Get it? Player and the like dungeon coach and like the sports spot and the patron MVP. Anyway, this video's MVP is William Lindsay. Thank you for doing what you're doing and supporting here. So until next time, stay creative, think outside the box. Peace.